Welcome to the pastor's office crib. Come on in. People ask me from time to time a little bit about my office since I spend sometimes 8 to 10 hours here. And as you can see, looking around at this office, there are many different things that I look at every day and think about. They all have meaning to me. If I were to break them down to different categories, I'd say you've got the obvious, the animal life that you see on the walls. These are all bits of memorabilia from different hunts that I've been on, or friends of mine or family members have been on. Also on this wall, you'll see all sorts of historical memorabilia, pictures of people that are important to me, things they taught, things they said. Even the people who gave me these things are important and special to me. But also you can see I have my bookshelf. This is where I keep the essential books. You know, everything's gone electronic in the last few years, but I've kept these hard copy books that are most important to me, the ones I pick up over and over again and read. And as you see, my favorite commentaries are right near my desk, and then on the other side of the desk as well, whatever sermon series I'm working on. So those are 3 different areas, 3 different categories, and I would like to show you each of them in 3 parts. So the first category in my office would be historical memorabilia. These are things that remind me of something in the past, and they're special because of who gave them to me. Over here, obviously, are some older pictures of my family. I have all sorts of pictures, but I like this one because it marks a certain era in our life when all the kids were still home. This is our annual Mafia picture that we took for a few years when we go to Colorado. In Denver, there's an amusement park, and we take pictures of this. And we need to remake this now that the boys are a lot older. And this is just a picture of Sherry and I that we really like. These are just different degrees that I have. And right here is a great picture taken by Phil Westbrook of the Redeemer Sanctuary that Sherry had made for me on one of my birthdays. And I love staring at this. It reminds me of not the building so much, but the people that help put it up and the people that meet there on a regular basis. Over here are 4 special pictures. These are 4 of my favorite theologians in history, and this comes from the office of Dr. Robert Raymond. This is Bob Raymond's dad. These were in his office, and I got these when he went to be with the Lord. The family gave me these pictures. And they're 4 of my favorite theologians, starting on the top with Martin Luther. You know, he's the man who is credited with starting the Protestant Reformation. His right-hand man was Philip Melanchthon. He carried out lots of Luther's teaching after Luther died. Then there's Ulrich Zwingli, who's actually a contemporary with Luther. He was really credited with being the first reformer to practice expositional preaching on a regular basis. And he actually died helping mercenaries who were fighting against the Catholic cantons. Interesting story. And of course there's John Calvin. You'll see his picture in my office more than once. He is my favorite theologian in history. His Institutes of the Christian Religion are the clearest expose of Christianity I think that's ever been written. Over here, a former member, Jason Scheitel, got reformer trading cards and put them in a frame for me, and I put this on my wall. This is a special piece. This is an actual manuscript page from a sermon by Charles Spurgeon. And it's hard to read how he wrote. And then on the right here, you have the actual translation of what he said. I got this from my good friend Brian Albert, the pastor at Calvary Baptist. He bought several of these manuscripts when they were being sold to help finance the building of the great Spurgeon Library at Midwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. And so he had these framed and gave to a few friends. This is a very special piece for me. This is Spurgeon's manuscript from a sermon. Up top, Mike and Kimberly Bigg gave me this picture. It's a portrait of Calvin talking with some of his comrades at Geneva back in the 1600s. It's a beautiful picture. Now below this in the corner, this is what I have of my soccer coaching memorabilia. I coached the soccer team at Westminster and then Heritage for 10 years. And so these are a few of the things that remind me of that era. A shirt they gave me after my 10th year. One of the many gifts teams gave. This is one of the teams that actually only lost one game. And so I always remember these guys very fondly. And they gave me this signed picture. And then there's several balls over there from different team members who signed and gave to me. And I look at those names every so often. You can see some of my kids. I got to coach 2 of my sons at one time in the last year that I coached. You see Nico there. And this was the very first year. You still filming? This is the very first year that we had soccer in 2006, and we won all 7 of our games as a junior high team back in the Westminster Christian era. Those are just some of the pieces of memorabilia here. I'll show you some fun stuff. Well, notice over here, John Calvin is over here on my left, and there's his commentary set. I get inspiration, not divine inspiration, but Calvin inspiration when I look at that picture. Hey, here's another interesting thing. This is a scorpion that Richard Scholes gave me after we did a mission trip in Tucson, Arizona back in 2000. My mother got me this one a long time ago. On the front it says Pastor Anthony Felich. On the back it says son, always keeping me in my place. Some other items. I've always collected bobbleheads. This one's for my son AJ when he went on his 8th grade trip to the Capitol. This is just one of many Italian-American pieces of memorabilia with the Godfather. He used to be, when you shook him, he used to say, "I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse." But it doesn't work anymore. And here's a couple more of my reformers, John Calvin and Martin Luther. This one here, most of you won't know because you're too sanctified, but this is the mascot for the heavy metal band Iron Maiden, who's my favorite heavy metal band. And you might be surprised to know that a certain elder at Redeemer gave this to me. He knows I like Iron Maiden. I'm gonna let you guess which elder it is. I'll tell you that he's a founding elder, and you may be surprised when you learn that that elder bought me this statue of Eddie. This is just a bobcat skull I'll talk about when we're talking about the animal memorabilia I have. And here's a great picture of me, and I'll just leave it at that. This is done by my illustrious staff back when Brian Huff led the charge. And I don't know who you may think that looks like, but sorry. This is from a missionary. One of our missionaries gave me this, and a former member's father made this pen for me, and it's made out of deer antler, which is pretty cool. Another piece of memorabilia that I look at with fondness, this comes from one of the first mission trips that we took to Juarez. The team bought me this, knowing that I like bow hunting, they bought me this bow, and it just reminds me of our first trips to Juarez. I bought it in one of the Mexican marts, or they bought it for me in one of the Mexican marts, and so marketplaces. So I keep that here to remember. These are a couple arrows that, I don't know if I could do this again, but when I was target shooting with aluminum arrows, somehow did kind of a William Tell on that. Oh, one other pen I want to show you. These are all memorabilias. This was made by Michael Branson. He made this for me, and he made each of the pastors one. Beautiful pen, I use it every day. Now we'll check out my closet. It's kind of a junk closet, but nothing's junk to me. I have all sorts of stuff that's basically memorabilia. You'll see here a picture of The Godfather, my favorite film, and a picture of Don Corleone right here with his cat. All this other stuff has meaning to me. You see more bobbleheads up here. This is a bottle of black cherry juice one of the congregants gave me to help me with gout bouts. This is stuff from missionaries that they've given, that I've received over time. I'll never forget Jerry and Chris Mounts, who've moved. He gave me this when I was doing a sermon series on love and the need for love in our congregation. He said it's like oil in an engine. Kind of cool. I could point out all sorts of other stuff down here, but you can see I have certain... Here's another picture of that Eddie character I told you about. Britt Hopper gave me this, another former member who's in the military. They know I like Iron Maiden. Sorry to disappoint some of you. And just some other things. Here's a picture of my dad and I. I've kept it. It's my dad and I when I was working at a workbench at our old house in Grand Island, New York, and I keep that around just for me to look at every once in a while to bring back memories. Diane Decker made this for me to remind me of the way God's prophecy intertwines. So like I said, all this stuff in here has some kind of meaning. Here's a great one that you remember. Remember how Jake Tassie, our youth pastor from before, every time he could put a logo on something, whether it be a cup, a headband, gloves, whatever. Here's one of the hats that he made. I can't say that I wear it on a regular basis, but I think of Jake when I see this. Oh, here's another Jake Tassie classic. And yet another Jake Tassie classic. I mean, pretty much the RPCX logo or Redeemer logo on anything Jake could find. Gotta give him credit for that. Oh, and here's one thing that missionaries will this is one of the mission teams from Mexico with everybody's name signed on it. This crazy howling looking kind of wolf. I don't have it's a coyote. I don't have many spots for it, but I see it every time I go in here, and I kind of chuckle to myself, being reminded of all the memories we have going back. So this is just some of the other stuff. Many other things that bring my mind to the people who gave it, and it also brings a smile to my face. So these are all the memorabilia pieces.